Hello, and welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Katie, and I talk about personal style and mindful living. January is the perfect time to figure out where we want to go this year and really reevaluate how we're showing up in the world and consider what we want that to look like. So for me, this is the perfect time to talk about color. I'll touch a little bit on trends and I'll touch a little bit on color seasons and that guidance, but my main focus is really connecting with color and figuring out how we want to wear it over the course of the next year and planning our wardrobes to accommodate any colors we want to wear. So in this video, we're going to cover the basics of color, how to wear it intentionally, and how it'll make us feel. We talk a lot about fit and silhouette when it comes to fashion, but color is equally important because it really resonates on an emotional level. Color can be grounding or energizing or protective, and it communicates an emotion and a style before we speak. Color's the first thing that we respond to when getting dressed, even unconsciously. Sometimes when we're stressed or have a lot going on in our lives, we may be more likely to default to neutral colors. I find that for some reason, when I have decision fatigue or I'm really stressed, I tend to reach for navy and cream because it's classic, it's simple, it doesn't take a lot of visual space, and it works within my wardrobe. Many people default to neutrals, and a lot of the advice that I've seen on channels talks about neutral colors and how using those colors will ensure that you have a cohesive wardrobe. Hi, Grandma. And understanding color and including more of it in your wardrobe doesn't mean wearing color in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. It really means wearing color more intentionally and using it to accent those neutrals or to help you have a little bit more life into your wardrobe. Let's move on to this year's controversial color of the year. You may have heard that Pantone's color of the year is Cloud Dancer, which is essentially white. And I've seen a lot of content about this, and people are really upset and are even deciding to choose alternate colors of the year. But from my perspective, if you want to add color to your wardrobe, white is a great base or non-color to start with because you can more easily layer color on top of that. The other great thing about white is that it comes in a lot of flavors, if you will. You've got on the one end your optic white, and then you have blue toned whites moving into ivory, ecru, and then those creamier white tones. So there are a lot of different whites that people can wear depending on their skin tone, the saturation level, as well as which color season that they tend to work within. So I actually think this is a great year to plan color in your wardrobe, given that this white neutral shade is going to be so dominant. So one of the questions that you could ask yourself this year is not, will I be wearing white? Because most people are wearing it to some degree anyhow, but what shade of white would work best for me? And how much of it do I want to include in my wardrobe so that I'm able to pair it with pops of color? Let's move on to color basics. So we're going to be talking about hue, value, and saturation level. So first off, hue is the color itself or the temperature. So that's the warmth versus the coolness of a shade. Next up is value. So that's how light or dark a color is. Light tends to feel open and dark feels very grounding. That's why we think of bright white being used often in the summer and when there's a lot of light, and darker hues being worn in the evening or if you want to have a moodiness or feel grounded. And of course, darker colors also tend to be more slimming because of the way that the eye focuses on those. Light colors are going to come forward and dark colors are going to recede. Let's talk about color seasons as a framework, which I find really helpful and expansive versus being limiting. I love myself an archetype. We will be talking through the 4 seasons color analysis, and I found this very helpful for myself. There are a lot of different types of seasonal color analysis out there, but the most ubiquitous is the spring, summer, fall, and winter quadrants, and then variations within those based on the temperature, value, and saturation that I mentioned earlier. So I'll speak to my color seasons a little bit because that might be helpful for folks. I have a very muted complexion. I have an almost neutral olive complexion. It is ever so slightly warm leaning. Most people do not think I have an olive undertone because I am fair and I do have some redness at the surface of my skin, but the underlying tone is a little bit green. And I'm definitely muted. My hair is colored, so it's looking a bit more saturated, but my natural hair color is a little bit more muted. So I lean towards more muted colors. The color season that I fall within, I can pull colors from 2 because I am almost on that neutral line there, and I tend to look best in either true autumn colors or in the soft autumn colors. True autumn colors are the colors that you typically think of in the autumn, so olive greens, rust shades, some of the not too intense brown shades. So think of earthy colors. And then for soft autumn colors, these ones are a little bit softer and a little bit more cool toned. So those are warm and muted, but gentle and low contrast. So sage shades, some kind of muted blue shades, think like a periwinkle, as well as some of the more neutral, lighter brown shades. In terms of reds, they would be softer red with a little bit more of a pink or salmon tone. When I'm wearing these colors, they are feeling very grounding for me, and I tend to be wearing the color rather than the color wearing me. I just want to use an example here of this shirt that I'm wearing, which is a muted yellow, and it's not quite ochre, it's not quite gold, but it's definitely got some brown in it, so it's softer. It's definitely one of the more saturated colors that I can pull off, but it is a fairly flattering color on me, and this would fall pretty squarely into a true autumn palette. I also have a grade kind of somewhere between aqua and green. I'm not sure how it's reading on the camera, but I have this sweater that is definitely in the soft autumn palette. So we've got a cool tone and a warm tone. And some people think that they cannot mix and match these, but this looks great. So why? Well, because they have the same value roughly. This is a little bit more saturated. This might be a little bit softer, but they are pretty close in saturation level. They also are both quite muted. So that means that there's a little bit of brown or gray in each of these tones. So neither of them is incredibly warm on a color wheel or incredibly cool on a color wheel. They're just coming out past neutral, probably about equally on either side, one being a little bit warmer and one being a little bit cooler. So because these color palettes are adjacent to each other, you can definitely mix and match those colors. And the great thing is if you have them in your wardrobe and you're really just pulling from a few palettes, most of the colors, not all, but most of them will work together, which means you really can mix and match your wardrobe if you are really considered in which pieces you are purchasing from a color perspective and really focusing on certain color palettes. The 12 seasonal colors are Bright Spring, True Spring, and Light Spring. light summer, true summer, and soft summer, soft autumn, true autumn, and dark autumn, and then dark winter, true winter, and bright winter. And there's a few different ways that you can determine which season is your main season, and then which seasons on other side, the adjunct seasons that you can also pull from. So you probably have 2 to 3 seasons that you can pull colors from easily, and those would be your best colors. The best way to figure this out is to first figure out what your undertone is, which can be really tricky. For a long time, I didn't realize that I had a more neutral undertone, and I couldn't figure out why certain warm colors that should be in my palette were just too warm on the spectrum for me. So it's really important to figure out if you have neutral coloring, which is actually more rare, slightly warmer coloring or very warm coloring, and then slightly cooler coloring or very cool coloring. The other thing you can look at is if you look best in gold, silver, or rose gold jewelry. The best shade on me is probably rose gold, followed by gold, and then silver. Certain people are gonna find that silver doesn't really do anything for them, or that gold doesn't do anything for them, or that rose gold, it looks really flat on them. So that's one of the tells to help you within your season kind of figure out, okay, am I neutral, am I warm, am I cool? And then you need to look at your contrast level. So what your saturation level is. Some people are gonna have a high level of contrast, and those people are gonna look great in very dominant, very saturated colors. And in colors like I wear that look very vibrant on me, these colors would look very muddy on them. So when you're looking at which color season you fall into, take a look at what colors are in there and figure out which ones you have in your closet that you gravitate to. Odds are that your absolute favorite colors are going to be the ones that you see in your palette. And then once you figure out which palette you're in, you can look at the palette on either side of that, because it is a color wheel. So let's use somebody as an example that is a light spring. So this person would typically look best in light and warm colors. They may also be able to wear true spring colors, which are brighter, and they may also be able to wear light summer colors. So they can find the best colors for them based on what looks the most harmonious on them. And that does take a little bit of trial and error. You're probably not going to get it right if this is your first time really focusing on color. You might have to try some things on and really reflect on how does that make your skin tone look without makeup on, because makeup can really kind of trick the eye and make you look more warm or cool than you are. So it's best to test things when you've got less makeup on or no makeup on, so that you can see which colors are really resonating with your undertone and your overtone. So now we have figured out which shade of white we are going to be wearing this season, because we have figured out which color season that we fall within. We understand if we look better in high or low contrast colors, meaning colors that are saturated, highly saturated, or less saturated. So colors that may have a little bit of gray or brown in them would be the low saturation colors. We understand which our color temperature is, so whether we're warmer or cooler. And now we are ready to start actually purchasing pieces in the best shades for us. So how do we go about this? The way that I think it's best to start wearing color, if you don't have much of it in your wardrobe, is really looking at fabrics that have a lot of texture, because they tend to subdue the color more than fabrics that have less texture and a really tight weave. Those are going to look a lot more vibrant regardless of the saturation level of the color. Look at natural fibers, look at things like linen, look at things like wool, cotton knitwear if you want to test out a color, because the color is going to definitely look softer on a textured garment that is reflecting light in a different way than a non-textured fabric would. And then prints are great because you can incorporate the neutral colors in your palette and then ensure the print just has a few pops of color. And the great thing too is that you can often find prints that have adjacent colors that are pulling from different color palettes, so you can mix and match things a little bit more easily. And then repetition. So really looking at repeating color across outfits. So honing in on some of those key colors for you and pulling them into different elements of your outfit. It could be something like a watch strap, or like I said, a print in a blouse, or even a pair of shoes, so that you're hitting some of those colors in your outfit and ensuring that there's a bit of balance with the color. You can maintain a more small scale wardrobe with color as long as you're being considered about the colors that you're adding. So you can stick with a lot of neutrals and add those pops in like I mentioned before, or you can buy a lot of different colors, but just ensure they are from those color seasons that make sense, and really focus on which colors look the absolute best on you. Sometimes it takes a little bit of patience to find those colors, but once you do, just be on the lookout for them and make sure that you're able to incorporate them when you see those pieces, because certain colors can be a little trickier to find. Now my wardrobe is an incredible mix of all muted colors, some being cooler and some being warmer, but almost all of them I'm able to mix and match together. This January is a great time to incorporate color in your wardrobe, so take some time to just simply notice which colors you're drawn to, reflect on which color season you may fall within, or which few color seasons may work best for you, and then without judgment, just take a step back and look at your wardrobe and see if there might be some areas that you want to incorporate a little bit more color into. Color is just one part of what make clothes feel right and aligned with your essence. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking about line and silhouette, so we can really dig in and continue to learn more about how we can build our wardrobes and key into our signature style. I would love to know what color you're feeling most drawn to right now. If there's a color that's really resonating for you or feels really at home for you, please share in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.